Okay. It is my pleasure to be speaking for the first time at a conference organized by ICC. I'd like to take a minute to appreciate the efforts behind the organization. Thank you to the organizing team for your diligence in putting together this event, such an immersive event where we get to engage with professors, scholars, and notable figures in our academic field. It is truly eye-opening to say the least. So, without further ado, my presentation today is entitled The Intersection of Technology and 21st Century Skills in the EFL Classroom. By EFL, of course, I mean English as a foreign language classroom. So first, I will start with a bit of background, then I talk about ICTs in the EFL Classroom and the key concepts relating to 21st century skills. I describe how the interplay of both technology and 21st century takes place, walk you through some examples, then I'll wrap up my presentation. So let's get started. Well, technology has much to offer to learners and educators in the EFL Classroom. It was fueled by the fourth wave of industrial revolution and has altered almost every aspect of our lives, including the approach to English language teaching. ICTs, as you might know, are exploratory in nature, and embedding them in the EFL Classroom means that the educators had to get rid of what is now an obsolete model of EFL due to the need for transversal skills. On that account, the call for pedagogical change towards student-centeredness and further implementation of tech resources has become the norm, and the English language classroom requires an extended understanding and enactment of literacies in the face of rising technologies. It is therefore of the essence to move away from the emphasis on reading and writing per se, as the modern day EFL Classroom is all about combining literacies and ICTs in forging the learning experience. So the first point I'd like to cover here is the incorporation of ICTs in the EFL Classroom. And I might include here virtual reality. Some of the applications of ICTs, I can say virtual reality, gamification, podcasts, learning analytics, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and multimodal big data. And they are being embraced and continue to permit today's teaching and learning of EFL, though to varying extents, of course. And Feliciano's 2010 described these technologies as tools, concepts, innovations, and advancements utilized in diverse educational settings to serve varied education-related purposes. I mean, in light of this definition, these educational technologies may come in handy in different circumstances, especially when teachers face the onerous task of lesson planning. And it won't come as a surprise here if I mention the smart learning environments, which are the byproduct of emerging educational technologies. And these environments are called smart if and only if they are effective, efficient, scalable, autonomous, engaging, flexible, adaptive, personalized, conversational, reflective, innovative, and self-organizing. Otherwise, they can fall into disrepute and fail to account for successful learning. No doubt, the sea change has brought about a new concepts and new labels. We now talk about smart classrooms, smart learners, and most importantly, we talk about smart teachers. And by definition, a smart teacher is one who is able to create a smart environment whereby learners are encouraged to immerse themselves with innovative learning scenarios. That is to say, a seamless learning experience. In other words, the omnipresent teaching resources in a smart learning environment give the learner a leeway to be in control of any learning happening, and to learn at their own pace and choice. So to give you more examples of ICT's integration or incorporation in the EFL Classroom, we can say flipped learning, blended learning, gamification, digital storytelling, chatbots, mobile assisted language learning, and all the other various applications of computer assisted language learning. Now I can turn to key concepts relating to 21st century skills. I'd like to argue that it is quite challenging to navigate the 21st century skills due to the continuous advances in educational technology. They mean different things to different educators depending on the learning teaching concept. And the first concept I'd like to consider is the four C's, or what we might tend to call the core learning skills, which are creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, otherwise referred to as problem solving and metacognition skills. So creativity means the multiple ways, tools, materials, and the practices that engage learners with their learning. And in a sense, a creative teaching puts to test the learners' motivation and self-esteem, and provides them with the appropriate skills. In other terms, increased creativity in the EFL Classroom has its impact on the overall achievement level. And apart from the improved performances, creative activities can renew the interest of students after they were emotionally properly detached, by allowing them to solve problems in original ways and to make connections between things. These activities can as well hearten teachers who may be disengaged, limited, and controlled, by giving them a leeway to think outside the box about their own, to reflect on their own teaching. And this brings me to talking about another important competency, which is collaboration, which is which can be defined as a skill that adds a totally different meaning to peer-to-peer and student-teacher interactions. According to Garris et al. 2018 suggested that there are various forms whereby collaborative learning can be implemented in the ELT class. Collaborative learning models and techniques include, but are not limited to, jigsaw, role play, roundtable, and think, pair, share. And only through an appropriate instructional design that the collaboration skill can be put into practice. Working in tandem with collaboration is the communication skill, which is equally important in the EFL Classroom. And this communicative ability is an indispensable and propelling force to language proficiency. Project-based tasks, for instance, offer learners a ground to speak their minds and share their perspectives while learning about new topics or tapping into their prior knowledge. So these projects may mean further exposure to authentic use of English and a boost to critical thinking skills that go beyond the mere recall and retrieval of information to target analysis, evaluation, inference, explanation, and self-regulation. So moving on to digital literacy skills. As a matter of fact, this category includes information literacy, media literacy, information communication technologies literacy. And to separate the wheat from the chaff, like we say, may be difficult, yet it is of paramount importance in this digital era, especially with the continuous ceaseless barrage of information to build adequate digital literacy skills. And there is no way we can talk about 21st century skills without mentioning or covering the 21st century skills movement. And this movement came to the fore as a way to rethink pedagogy for the 21st century. It emerged to answer the demands for a school of the future, like I say, that takes into account the renewal and advocacy of more pronounced competencies and pedagogies in education as a societal need. Indeed, the call for a change brought together educators in general and EFL teachers in particular in joining the movement through an overhaul of their practices, of their practices and dynamics. So Scott 2015 outlines an overall vision of the 21st century skills. or pedagogy, which is characterized by a renewed focus on quality, prioritization of interactivity and collaboration, personalized learning, emphasis on problem-based learning, motivation and creativity. And as for the tools, strategic questioning, ICTs, social media, authentic materials, which are focal in teaching metacognitive skills, minimizing the digital divide, placing the learner at the center of the learning process, and redefining the teacher roles and the functions. And this leads me to my next point, which is the interface of ICT tools and competencies in the EFL classroom. Wong and Lee 2011 state that ICT is able to act as a lever to bring about change in student learning in the context of establishing collegiality and fostering pedagogical innovations in schools. And in this regard, ICTs can be harnessed across the curriculum, mainly in all areas or in Ines of English language learning, that is to say, both productive and receptive skills. Now let us see how technology can enhance creativity in the EFL classroom. Actually, in helping their learners improve and promote their creativity, teachers in EFL Classroom turn to diverse educational technologies in designing language learning activities that improve teachers' creative thinking. By way of illustration, I can state web-based tools that back up creativity by cultivating students' curiosity and offering them a different lens on how they look at our learning experience. Multimedia production software can be another example, another educational technology that offers flexibility in designing the materials and sparks the learner's imagination and allows them to take their ideas a step further. And since creativity can only be learned by doing, divergent learning activities can open up perspectives through the interaction between the distinguishing attributes of ICTs, including dynamism, speed, electronic communication. And on the other hand, we said on the one hand we have ICTs, the attributes of ICTs. On the other hand, we have the subconstructs of creativity, which are inventiveness, originality, imagining, problem solving, effectiveness, and inquisitiveness. ICTs do also boast collaboration. In fact, the results of a study by Rafour and Monti 2019 explored the potential of interactive digital storytelling in building the 21st century skills, mainly peer-to-peer collaboration, cooperative learning, and creativity, which showed that by crafting their own stories and designing characters and settings, by the dint of particular software, of course, the learners take part in the learning process and display an ability to fit in a digital environment. And switching the focus from the teacher to the learner means also that much room is left for engagement, motivation, and peer-to-peer interaction. Based on the technological tools and semiotic forms, digital storytelling offers opportunities for the development of language proficiency, creativity, and digital literacy skills. And at this point, it is important to say that ICT use is in the EFL classroom, it's the communication skills. No doubt. We can engage our students with interactive games, game-based educational platforms, example Kahoot, or by creating study groups, Facebook group chats to allow learners to share their experiences. Also, we can use videotapes, digital movies, language labs, blog writing, Google Docs. And these apps and more, of course, and platforms allow students to complete tasks collaboratively and to devise parts of their learning. Now the learner is part of his or her learning. And in my next point, I focus on how ICTs or the ICT tools trigger the higher order thinking skills, or what we might call HOTS, which are placed at, as you can see here, at the top of Bloom's cognitive taxonomy. Yes, And these skills are of overriding importance in designing learning materials to ensure that learners can analyze, evaluate, and play an important and prominent role in creating knowledge. So teachers can harness the power of technology to foster hard or high order thinking skills. They can't, however, do that by just taking the lesson plans from paper and putting them on the screens. They can do so by, for example, allowing the learners to decipher sources online and identify if the information is correct. So back to the interplay between ICT and digital literacy. And Waiduna 2020 defines digital literacy as the ability to use and create technology-based content, including finding and sharing information, answering questions, and interacting with others, and computer programming. And this comprehensive definition paints a picture of what goes on inside today's EFL classroom, where teachers, students, and technology are in perfect harmony towards achieving the intended learning outcomes. Also, Bruce and Casey, 2011, argued that incorporating digital technology in the classroom paves the way for the active participation in the society, where new media practices and technologies are deeply embedded in the processes and structures. And in this regard, the EFL teaching practice mediated by technology should not lag behind and should keep abreast of the recent developments and the practices that equip the language learners with the necessary digital skills to face the mounting spread of technology and the of course, we should be wary of the threat. We should be mindful. Okay, wrapping up, using technology to build the 21st century skills in the EFL classroom is nothing like waving a magic wand. It is all about taming the educational technologies to fit in the lesson plan and to bring to light the learning objectives. It is misleading to assume that the skills we discussed are unique to the 21st century, since much of the same has been covered at length by philosophers and educators from ancient history. The renewal aspect, however, cannot be stressed enough. Though though these skills, especially the four C's, they are old, of this new aspect of how we tackle them, of how we teach them, of how we embed them into our lesson plans, of course. So it is safe to mention that these abilities are on high demand, and one way or another for successful learning in different periods. In different peers. So other competencies including life skills, that is to say flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction, social and cross-cultural interaction, productivity and accountability, and leadership and responsibility. They did not find room in my presentation. However, they can open up avenues for further research on the pivotal role of social skills in the transition from classroom learner to an active being in the society. And that's all from me. Thank you so much for your listening, and I'd be happy to take your question.